When you're looking for a place to live, you will always come across the question, to buy or to rent? If you seek advice from the older generations, they always believe that it's not practical to rent and persist that buying must always go before choosing to rent. Today's world is changing fast, and in this modern world, priorities may not be exactly on owning a house. Hi, welcome to Grayson Finance. In today's video, I'm gonna tell you about what home buying pitfalls you should avoid. As I've said at the beginning of the video, the older generation will most of the time give the advice of buy a house rather than rent or lease. They would often suggest that there are perks of owning a house and that these perks are not present if you're only renting. Once you start paying mortgage payments for the house you bought, you will gain equity. Equity is the portion of your home that you really own without having a mortgage burden. Every monthly payment you do makes you gain more equity and places you one step forward to becoming a homeowner. Owning a home can also serve as an investment. The value of your home can go up every year, making a house that was worth only $150,000 25 years before value up to about $450,000 now. A rule of thumb in owning a home is that you need to at least hold the property for 5 years or more for you to be able to enjoy the benefits of the property's appreciation of value. Owning a home will also enable you to have stability in the housing. In these unpredictable times, owning a house makes you have stability and predictability in terms of housing. Having a fixed mortgage will add up to having stability in home ownership. One of the cons of renting that the older generation insists on as one of the reasons why you should opt to buy a house is that when you rent, you're always under the monitor of your landlord. Having to deal with someone who would meddle with your business at home might be a bad thing for you. The older generation would then proceed to argue that if you can afford to own a house, why even have the desire to rent one? Having to pay for rent would only make you pay for your landlord's mortgage. You are only making someone else rich instead of building up your own wealth through an investment or an owned residence. Having to rent houses would only give you uncertainties about where to live in the future if your landlord decides to not have their room or house for rent anymore. This will bring up the possibility of moving from rentals to rental, making it a costly hassle for you. With all these factors being presented, you may lean towards home ownership more than renting. However, if you ask people from your own generation, they may disagree with this advice. Unlike what the older generation thinks about renting, there are actually benefits that you can enjoy through it. The first advantage of renting is it's cheaper than buying a house. Your monthly rent payment is generally cheaper than your mortgage for your house. These rent payments will also include other expenses such as utilities and hydro expenses. Renting will open you to a more flexible lifestyle than owning a home. If your current rental and living arrangements don't really appeal to you, you can bail out and look for a better place to suit your taste. It was argued beforehand that having to rent will only hinder you to have housing stability because of having to move from one place to another constantly. If you opt to rent, however, you can actually acquire a multi-year agreement that will enable you to live in the place for a longer period of time, ensuring stability. This agreement can also be used as a tool to negotiate a lower rent with your landlord. Another advantage of renting is the absence of maintenance expenses to worry about. Whatever needs to be fixed, be it a broken washer or a broken smoke alarm, you just need to call your landlord and they will fix it for you. Since renting is much cheaper than a mortgage, your extra funds should be allocated to investments to make your money grow, or you can have it sent to your retirement account. This move will only make you be in a good financial position that is beneficial for your financial success. Buying a house can be much more expensive than what most people think. There are 4 major costs that make up home ownership in its entirety. The first major cost that you will need to pay up is your down payment. Down payments can go up to 20%, and you need this huge amount of money in order to apply for a mortgage. This percentage of money is actually heavy to save up for if you're trying to pay it off through saving up. Before deciding to own a house, you need to have at least the down payment for you to not have your home up for foreclosure. Next is the closing cost. The moment you buy a house, you will need to pay up 1 to 5% of your total housing costs to finance administrative tasks needed to be completed. Closing costs cover layer fees, home inspection fees, appraisal fees, etc. Another major cost to consider is your insurance fees. The moment you buy a house, it becomes a need to insure it. Insurance fees can start from $50 per month and will go higher depending on where you live and the size of your property. And lastly, maintenance costs. If you choose to rent, you won't need to make maintenance fees as something you need to worry about. Owning a home, however, will oblige you to maintain your property through these expenses. Maintenance costs are present every year and can go up to 1 to 2% of your house's value. Both renting and buying would have pros and cons of their own. Your decision to rent or to buy should be based on the situation that you're in. For instance, you should choose to rent if you're still uncertain about settling down and haven't really decided on any long-term plans. You should also choose to rent if you're carrying high-interest debt and have insufficient funds to pay off the 4 major costs of buying a house. Never take a high-interest loan to pay off your mortgage, as it will only put you in an unfavorable financial position. You should choose to buy a house if you're ready to settle down in a place and commit to staying there for at least 5 years or longer. You can also choose to own a place if you're completely ready for the financial sacrifices you need to take, as well as ready for the work you need to do. Having to pay a huge amount in the mortgage will have you sacrifice multiple vacations every year. That is why, if you're the type of person who values traveling around the world more, home ownership may not be for you. Always remember to take your time with these big decisions. Keep in mind that there are no set blueprints on what you should and shouldn't do with your life. If you're looking for help to jumpstart your financial career in order to prepare for your housing plans, whether it be to rent, to lease, or to own, we at Grayson Finance have tips, tricks, and videos you can follow along at your very own pace. With all these factors presented, the decision is now up to you on whether you should buy a house or rent one. Thanks so much for watching! If you like this video, make sure to press like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell to keep you posted on new helpful videos.